Now we're going to migrate our database to set it up completely. So in our manage.py, we're going to type in the migrate. Now there is migration, make migrations, but we'll get to that later. We're just going to use the migrate feature currently. Now we're going to look at creating our model, the first model for our polls app. And we're going to do that in the polls.model.py file. We can put this down. We'll come up to our polls app, go down to models, and see we don't have much in there in our models file. We do have the Django database import models that's already created for you in the template. And now we're going to create our class questions. And this is a class-based model. Always, for the most part, we're going to use the class. So we're going to go class, and then we're going to go question, and then models dot models or model. That is almost always going to be the same for these ones. Sometimes that may be different depending on what we're doing. First one's going to be question underscore text, and this is what we want to be in our database. Equals, and then models dot char field, meaning that we want it to be a inside the database. It's going to be a character field, and we want to limit the max characters. Max length equals 200, which gives them 200 characters they can use through that. We'll go enter, and then we're going to set up one called pub date. And these you can pretty much set up whatever you want as long as they stay in format of more like here where we have question and then we use the underscore text rather than just having those together. It's just a good formatting key to use. Pub date equals, and then we're going to go models. This one's going to be a date time field, and relate to date published. Go down to the next one. Now we're going to do class. We're going to do a choice. I'm going to set up the next model as choice inside the database, and then models dot model, and we want to have question equals models dot foreign key. Foreign key is going to set up a relationship between this and the above question. So now this is related to on delete equals models dot cascade. Do this here. We won't need the two extra things it puts on the end of that though, so I'm just going to remove those. Now with this, is almost going to be always the same on these ones too. But what we have here is we have foreign key, so it's going to relate that to the previous one. Now I'm going to give them a little more space here and pull that in. So if we read what it's talking about over here, so it says each field is represented by an instance of a field, like the char field for characters, date field for date times. The name of each field instance, question, text, or pub date, is the field's name in machine-friendly format. So it's just saying, hey, you'll use this value in your Python code, and your database will use it as the column name. You can use an optional first positional argument to a field to designate human readable name. That's using a couple of introspective parts of Django and doubles. We're not going to go into that too much. Some field classes have required arguments. Char field, for example, requires you to give it a max length. So that's why we had to do that. It's a requirement. Not always do you have, but most of them do. Field can also have various optional arguments. In this case, we've set the default value to votes to 0, which we haven't got to that one, so we'll get back to here. And I'm going to go ahead and since we have these here, I'm just going to, the rest of this one, we'll just copy this in, paste it over here. This first one, if you want, you can do that same thing, or you can type them out. It just gives you experience typing them. The more you type them, the more it helps you to remember them. But just for time factor, I'm going to copy those in. If you need to read down through some of this, what it's doing. So we have that. So we have successfully created our first model. We have in that model, we're going to have a question and we're going to have a choice. And this is going to kind of be for that polls app. So we're going to ask them a question and then we're going to have them answer that question. Activating a small bit of models code gives Django a lot of information, but now we're going to need to activate this model so that it knows how to use it. So to include the app in our project, we need to add a reference to its configuration class in the installed app setting. The polls config class and polls.apps.py file. So it's dotted path. Okay. So we're going to edit, and you need to do this for each app that you add on. So we are going to add this right here into our settings file. So I'm going to open my project back up, come up to settings, get that back open. Then we're going to come down to, or go back up since it was up here. We got installed apps, and we're going to type in the, and a lot of times too, you start to type this in, polls dot apps dot polls config, and of course we need a comment at the end. And it's showing that if it keeps it highlighted that, I forgot to put my S at the end of this. It probably would have helped me type that in. And I got one too many P's. And polls config. Boy, I struggled here. Now we're good. So we've added that. Now Django knows to include the polls app. Let's run another command. Now here was what we were talking about, the make migrations. This is going to take what we created in our models and it's going to make a migration file for that. So we can come back down again to our manage. You start to type in make migrations, and then we're gonna, which one do we want? We want the polls app. That's what we created. So polls, hit enter. It's gonna take what we added in our model file, and it's gonna take and add those into those models. So here, and you can read about that a little bit there. Now, there's a command that migrations for you to manage your database schema automatically. That's called migrate. I'll come to that, but first let's see what the SQL that might run. So you can actually look at, if you want to look at what this would be. And you can do that with the command line if you want to look at a command line. Or the other thing nice about Pycharm is we can come back to our, oops, I got this, I gotta lower this back down. Come up to migrations, and it's talking about here. So it's looking at this first one. This is what it created on that initial migration for the polls app. And then you can actually go into the file and you can look at it the same way. So what it's doing is this is how it's going to actually set the model up inside the database. And it does this all automatically for you by using the commands that we did. So it's taking the create model, it's question, fields. So this is going to be the column, and then it's going to be the fields it's going to include for that. Same with these ones here. Now that we have completed that, we can go ahead and migrate that now. And we're just going to type in migrate. Or if you're in the command line, you've manage.py.migrate. And then this will, you could use polls if you want, or we can just type migrate. It's going to do everything that was, as long as there wasn't any errors, then it's going to migrate these and go ahead and create those inside the database. If we had errors for some reason before that, we could actually make changes inside of this migration folder if we needed to prior to actually doing our migration. So I'm just going to move that, get our settings back off. Now this is talking about going into the playing with the API, or it could go into an actual shell of Python, which in Pycharm, it actually already has one created for you. So if you see down at the bottom here, you'll see Python console. We could actually go to the console. It creates it for you. You don't have to even go through this unless you're in a command line based one. This one, then we could actually create. So this is going to create some quick questions to have set up and running inside your polls database without us having to create anything to have those questions asked, just to make sure that it's working. So if you want to follow along through that, you could do this. It would give you, it would set up these first few for you. So now, if you want to, like I said, you can follow down through this and do this in the Python console if you like. I'm just going to kind of move on past that for time-based. One of the things it talks about here is, and is if what you kind of discover if you run through this, is the fact of it's helpful representation of the object. Let's fix that by editing the question model. So we're going to go into the model, and we're going to add the string method, which, if you are looking at the string method for both question and choice, if I click on this, I'm going to go ahead and just hit Control and click on this and kind of give a little. Anytime it has that, it highlights those. It'll kind of give you an idea. The string method is called whenever you call string on an object. Django uses string object in a number of places, most notably display an object in the Django admin site. Has a value inserted into a template when it displays an object. Thus, you should always return a nice human readable representation of the model from the string method instead of just returning a object. You'll actually, if you have this and we define it, it will actually return this instead of an object without anything with it. So, and it is used in the admin model, which we'll get to here shortly too, hopefully. So we'll move back, kind of go into that. So this one is showing that we want to add this def statement here, a function. We're gonna add this function over. I'm just gonna copy and paste these in. Let's build that back out so we have a little more space. Got a couple spaces, Control V. So we have that one, and then we'll do our function here for this one. And now we have both those in. Now let's add a custom method to the model. And here we're actually running a method of was published recently, self, again, because we're using a class-based, right? So we're calling self to question. And we also notice that we're gonna have to do time zone. We need to import date time and time zone so that we can use both these functions. So in our model, we're gonna need the import date time and import Django, Django, if I can learn to spell, .utils, so I can hit the arrow, go on, utils import, and I didn't want to do that. I hit the enter button just a little too quick, import, and we're gonna do time zone. Time zone. Looks like I missed my dot import over here. Nope. Import time zone. Not quite sure why we have no module named time zone. The date time. Dot utils import time Well, we'll come back to that. Let's see why that's not functioning here. Underneath our question model, though, question, underneath our self model, either or, we can do the define was published release. We're going to look at this, and maybe that will allow us then to realize our piece up top. I'm going to click enter on that just so we can see it all on one page here, since I have this separated out. But it's still giving us a unused statement and the effect that's incorrect. This may be a cause from us using a newer version of Django over what this one was currently when it's using that. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment and I'll figure that out, and then we'll come back and talk about that. So to resolve that, I just changed. Instead, I went back to just kind of the regular Python notation on that and did from date time import time zone, which then let us bring that in. So it looks like after I added the from date time import time zone, it allowed me to also then bring back in and do the Django.utils import time zone, which I needed to bring in because it was not letting me use the time zone.now here. It was giving me an error on that. Once I was able to import that in, now this has been corrected. So again, we have another spot if you want to use the shell, the Python shell, and add some information into your model. This will show you how to do that from inside your shell, which you can add data into that model itself. I'm going to bypass that. If you guys want to go down through that, take the time and please do that. And now we're going to get into talking a little bit about the Django admin. First off, we're going to create an admin user. So we're going to come back down to our manage file. And here, again, we don't have to use the manage.py. We can just start typing in create. And it's going to say create super user. So we double click on that. We're going to hit enter. And then it's going to come up. A lot of times if you have your username that you've already has from your computer, it's going to say, hey, do you want to use this? Leave blank to use it. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and use that. But this is saying use admin. So we're going to go ahead and type in admin. And then we're going to enter. It's going to say, now type in an admin address. And we can do whatever we want. Really, it doesn't matter. You can type in your address if you want, but we'll do the same as what they have, admin@example.com. Hit enter. It's going to ask for a password. You'll be asking your password, blah, blah. You can do whatever you want here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. Now we have that. Bypass validation to create user anyway. Yes, this password is to be the password entire numeric. We're just going to go ahead and correct yes on that. Bypass the security. That's good security reasons to have in there. Final step is enter your password. We did this. Now we can start our server again. Let's go ahead and run server. Again, I have to use 8001 online. And now we're up at the running again. And instead of the 8001, I could go to that one, which is going to come up and give me, again, page not found. Or I can go back to here where we have it said go out to, probably back too far over. Well, there we go, to admin. This is going to be the site that we always want to enter into. Now, you see, I couldn't use 8000. When I went to 8000, this actually went to my website that I have for Hibbage class. Has all my pieces in there. So I need to change this to 8001. And now it comes up to, now we can use the username that we set up originally. I just kept, we went admin and we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, log in. Oh, my password saver just popped up, no big deal for that. Now, as we come in, we have groups, users. Users, if we click into that, we should be able to see that we have our admin user. Then we can go even further into that. And we could add, if we want to, you could add your name, last name. Super users can have all 3 of the permissions. I go ahead and want to get this up so we have a little bit larger view. And in those permissions, you can break those permissions down underneath right here. So you can see our polls. We have our polls app that's created in here, and we have permissions over that. Super user, admin has all these, so you don't need to put anything in there. It gives you information down here about the last time a person logged in, when, and the date that they had joined. So some great information in here. This admin, which this side of it, created automatically for you in Django, which also another benefit of using this. Up top, just like anything, you can come back if we want to go to the home side. Again, when then we have groups. We don't have any groups created currently. But if we wanted to have different permissions set by different groups, then we could do that inside of there. And I'll come back over to our, I'm going to close out some of these that we don't need anymore. We don't need that one. We don't need that one. And we already did the polls app. And we're going to go back to where? Right in our first part 2. Here we go. Now we were at the administration here. Sorting that back up so we can see our other side here too as well. Started the server, ran that, we went in into the admin site. Now we're going to do some, make the poll app modifiable in the admin. So we're going to go to our admin. I'm going to move this down a little bit, bring back my files here, right? My app files. And now we're looking for the admin. Now I just single click. You guys may need to double click that. Let's change your settings. Polls.admin. We already have the contrib import admin. And now, so if we want to add our polls to it, we're going to go from dot models import question. That's going to import our question here into our admin model. And then to register it, to make sure that it's functioning and all we have to do is admin.site.register and question. The actual one that we want to use. And there we are. Now that we've registered that, we should be able to see. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Now we can go back to our admin. I'm going to save that in my model here. If I come back over and I go back to 127.8001 admin, which should still be up, and we're logged in still. Now you can see, since we added this, we now have questions. And we can actually manage and add those questions right here. Now, if you were following along and doing, if you added in information to your database through your Python console, then you may already have information in here. If not, we can take and add that information right here. It's going to say question text, and it's getting that from, if we come back to our models, this question text and date published. This is the 2 items. Automatically bought that in from us, from our model. We can then type out a question if we want. question text. This is a polls app. How long do you code each day? And then Django also, if it's a date time, let me go back to my model. We have this as a date time field. So inside of that, it's made it a date time field, which will give you the calendar feature automatically in admin. And if I wanted, since I'm creating this today, I could just hit today, it'll bring today's date in. Or I can choose a date and then go here and choose a date. And if everything is running fine, I should be able to hit save. Question has been saved automatically. If I come back to polls now and questions, I should have this one here. You can delete that here by going here, delete. And if I check mark that, I could actually delete that one out of the database. Or if I need to edit it, I can go in. And then if I wanted to add another one, I could say save and add another. It goes into another question. What do you eat? Oops. You eat for breakfast? And I'm going to say again, I did today, hit save. Now we have two questions in there. Automatically set up inside your admin. Quick, easy, painless. We'll come back over. You can see it has each of mine in for that. Oh, it says this is just actions showing that I had what has been recently done. I just went in to edit this, and that's why I showed the edit button there. We'll come back down over to our tutorial. They just put what's up in theirs, right? Dates. It's automatically generated. The form is automatically generated inside the admin. We didn't have to do anything besides just this. Django has that built in. So we added this, it created this form for us. Now if we want to create our own form, we'll go about that in a different way, and we'll get to that soon. It's talking about the delete or save features. You can go down through that. Now we're going to cruise over to Django app part 3. So I'm going to pause for a moment. We'll come right back.